Hi, my name is Brooke Lipman,
And I'm Dr. Deb Lippman,
and this is Wine Together.
a podcast where we drink some wine and have a chat.
So sit back, relax, and get that corkscrew ready.
This week, we have a special guest, Dr. Tracie Metz, and we're going to talk about being women. And the one thing I want to say about that is I wish I had learned to be a woman a lot sooner. I wish I had learned before I went to undergraduate. I wish I had learned before, finishing high school. I wish I had learned to be a woman that supports other women. And so, at 58 years old, I'm having to start, new habits. So that's one thing that I definitely want to be my purpose, at least for 2025, is support other women. And so so excited to be able to do that today with Tracie Metz, because she is a woman who has started her own business after. So this is a new career, and we want to hear all about it. So with no further ado, I'm going to let Dr. Metz take over.
Hi, I'm Tracie, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. Thank you for inviting me to the podcast. And I too, Deb, like you, it's taken me a long time to learn how to be a woman. And part of my personal goal in life is to help younger women be women sooner and to understand what that landscape looks like and what that means to be brave and bold and to reframe and rename how we present ourselves in the world.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And yes, so even though I'm older than you, I appreciate that you're going to be teaching me that. So thank you very much. And I'm so delighted that Brooke is here with us, so that, absolutely this generation learns to be supportive and caring. And, because that's one thing I've found over the years is to care for and respect goes much further in relationship building. And I know that's part of your, on your website, your business website, as you talk about the importance of relationship building. Can you tell us more about how you got into why you chose the path that you've chosen most recently?
Yeah, thanks. I just want to give a shout out, Brooke. Thank you too for having me. For me, I understand that there's sometimes a lot of hate going around to the younger generation. And I just want to applaud the younger generation. I think for me, I have a lot to learn, and I am grateful for the voice that you're bringing to the table and the boldness that these younger generations are bringing. And so I just feel professionally and personally that if we could get to a space where we're doing equity of voice, not just among different socioeconomic groups, different people in our community, but also related to age, I think we can have a really robust and move forward with whatever objective we're trying to accomplish together and make the world a safer place for women and a brighter place for women. And when we uplift women, we uplift everybody, including men and children in our lives. So it's not one gains, the other lose. We all gain when we lift up women. So I started my career in biology. Deb, this is where you and I first connected so many years ago. We were orbiting on the same campus, but we were in very different stages of life at that time. And so I came in with biology and I went into teaching, and I found a love for middle school math and science teaching that I had not expected. And so I was able to do that for many years before I started having children and kind of thinking about my next career move, which led into leadership in schools, which is where I served as a school administrator, principal, earned my doctorate during that journey and really was able to support various age levels. I've been a school administrator from everywhere from pre-K all the way to what's called an early college model. And that was very delightful. And I grew a lot, and I hope that I helped a lot of people, and especially young women leaders, as I was a young woman leader through that. I'll also say that during those years, I had a couple of missteps. Some of those missteps were connected to my own pride and my own lack of understanding and my own desire to get ahead and to climb the ladder of success, however I deemed that ladder at that time. I will also say that some of my missteps came at the hand of wrong counsel and wrong counsel, inappropriate counsel from other women. And that stung in a way that has left me better in so many ways, while there's still a little bit of a crack and a heartbreak as a result of some of the miscounsel, some of it unintentional, some of it intentional. And so, again, when I think moving forward from those points, when I learned that, it just became even more missional that the mentorship and conversations that we have with individuals, especially with women, that we're being very cautious about how we're doing that in a way that is lifting people up and putting ourselves second, so that others can feel safe and can feel like they can be their true selves when they're with me. So as I was going along that journey, we had COVID. And I'm sure you experienced COVID. We experienced COVID. Lots of mixed feelings around COVID. We lost several close individuals to us as a result of COVID. And so that really impacted a lot of the ways I was thinking about family and the ways that I was thinking about how I wanted to live my life, how I wanted to show up moving forward in the world coming out of COVID. It was during that time that I transitioned into being a student success coach, which is different than a school administrator. And I was able to do that in an alternative school setting.
Oh, nice.
That was very eye-opening in a way to see the resiliency of communities, the resiliency of students and families, the way family looked through a coaching model and through the lens of understanding their vulnerabilities and understanding how they're a vulnerable population, and how can I be a voice. And if I'm not the voice, how can I help make space so they can tell their story and they can be their voice? Because part of that is storytelling and sharing, but somebody sometimes has to help people get there, right? They can't navigate some of our broken systems, even some of our well-processed systems. And so I felt that was really pivotal in how I wanted to show up moving forward. So that led me out of education into nonprofit work, where I was able to connect at a larger level with people and communities and dug into community work. And that was exciting because for anyone who is a professional, when you send out an email, the timeline for receiving an email back. When you move into volunteer nonprofit work, emails don't come back in a timely manner.
Yes.
Communication looks a little different. And so jumping into that nonprofit volunteer space was really eye-opening and really taught me a lot about how do we love on people and build relationships so that the communication is not transactional, it's transformational. And the work that we're doing is transformational. And so that was really kind of how I navigated out of middle school math and science, which I hope to bring those. And of course, your family had science all throughout with the biology and the chemistry. You bring that quirky scientific mindset, but you also make sure that blends well with a relational, transformational dynamic where people can show up and be themselves and really lean into what they find as valuable too. So I'll pause there for any questions before I jump into how I was able to launch my own consulting business, because I'm excited to talk about that, but I want to pause there. I probably gave too much. You can edit out, Brooke, whatever you need to.
No, this has been absolutely phenomenal. We appreciate you so much. I do have, I see so many familiar you and I are so familiar, I guess is what I'm saying. In the way that we think about our relationship with students, the way that we think about our relationship with our family. I'm sorry. And I wonder, because here we were at the beginning, we were talking about making sure that we, as the generation that you and I are at, are we making sure that we help the next generation of women be supportive and caring and respectful, so that everyone comes into their space being comfortable with themselves in a loving way.
Mhm.
And so I wonder, I'm starting to question out loud, is it because we had similar, was it because we were at the similar place in undergraduate? Is it because we had similar upbringings? I kind of wonder what helps us to be recognizing at this point in our lives that we need to turn the page a little differently in uplifting the next generation of women. Because, I understand that hurt from other women, but I also am worried that, was I one of the hurtful ones?
Mhm.
Was I one that, kind of caused someone to not feel comfortable being their true self? And I think of that all the time in my relationship with my children. And I know that my relationship with my children is different than my relationship with other people, especially young women that, I'm trying to see that I want to support. But, I wonder how we, as mothers, how do we grow into being women leaders? How do we bring that knowledge that we have as mothers to also be good women leaders?
Yeah. So, I mean, I know for me, Deb, I totally understand that. And I would say that, yes, I have been a part of hurting other women unintentionally, I hope, in my heart. Although sometimes maybe it was intentional. And I am still working through accepting what was intentional and unintentional. And I have had to, when we talked about being women, I put in my notes a personal confidence for how to reframe my missteps and learning curves. So
Okay.
how do I now at this age go back and say, gosh, I would have done X, Y, and Z different. I wish that others had not experienced any pain or any redirections in their life as a result of counsel or time with me. And then that for me, what has opened up for me in that space is this idea of grace. And particularly, I'm a faith-based person, the understanding of grace and knowing that when we know better, we do better. Yes. And that even when I say I know that there were women before me who unintentionally or intentionally engaged with me in a way that was hurtful, I've had to lean into providing grace for them. And I have not always wanted to do that. I'm like, I don't want to give you grace. I mean, I want to receive grace, but I don't always want to give grace. Yes. And so that's kind of the space that I'm walking through and have been walking through for about 10 years is how do I exhibit grace to others and how do I give grace to others? And then simultaneously praying very, very hard that others will give me grace as well. Yes. And being okay if they don't. If I had known better, I would have done better. And I would love to receive grace, but I don't expect that from others because I know they have their own healing journey to walk through. I wonder, though, when thinking about why now, why in the last 10 years, there's been this revelation of how to do better, how to nurture, how to mentor. I think it's a couple of things for me. The first one I'll just reference is that my mother used to always say, just wait till you're in your 40s and things will start making sense. So I do think there is a level of brain development and life experience that play a role in clarity, a clarity that I didn't have in my younger years, which is why I say early in my professional career, there was a level of pride because I didn't know any better. Like, I thought I could do X, Y, and Z and didn't have the experience or the my back didn't hurt, so I didn't understand.
Yes.
I didn't have to slow down. So I think part of it is age. I think part of it is that in some ways, while our society is difficult, there's also ways in which it's so simple, right? So I don't have to spend a full day trying to figure out how to do laundry and meal prep, right? Like I can literally drive to a fast food restaurant if I want to, or even Uber some food to me. So I have more space in my time for reflection, for conversations, for pivoting my day. If something pops up and somebody wants to have a conversation with me, it's much easier for me to pivot in my day and have that conversation. Where I know my mom and her generation did not have that.
Yeah,
So
that's
those
true.
are the two things I think of probably the most, is just how old I am, which I love and embrace, and I'm grateful for the age that I am. So
My children are like saying, boy, she is really loving this getting older. And I think that it's so funny, but yeah, I hope that's one message for sure that young women find, is that it is okay to age, because like you said, our brain develops, we learn things. That's definitely part of brain development, and we know that as scientists, our experiences are part of teaching us, and we learn from those experiences, positive or negative, and hopefully we pass down the positive to the others that are, kind of in our tutelage, that we're, that we have to be, part of their mentorship. And so I love that I'm getting older. I am embracing it happily. But she thinks it's funny. They talk about me.
In a bad way. I was
No,
saying
you
it.
do not.
Ren was the one that was kind of like thought it was kind of funny, and I was like, well, she's excited about it. I was like, oh.
And
Yeah.
I am excited to learn, because I definitely, you said this earlier about learning from this generation. I absolutely am learning from this generation, not just the technology part. I mean, they love to have to teach me parts of the technology thing, but I love that they want to teach.
Mhm.
And it's not necessarily a career path that they're choosing in the public spectrum, but my children are kind of teachers. I mean, they absolutely do show care most of the time. Teach me. Someone probably the most impatient of them, but still, all I have to do is say, "Just be patient with me," and she recognizes what she might have said or did. And so I think that that's a beautiful part of, at least for my family.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for that. I'm thankful for those relationships. I know they're different in every family, and I don't want everyone listening to this thinking that I expect everyone to have, this great, big, beautiful family. I mean, I'm blessed. I just want to say I'm blessed, but I understand hurt in family. So I want people to know that there's room beyond the hurt to grow. And I hope that as women, we embrace that opportunity to give people room to grow beyond the hurt.
Yeah, Deb, that's really beautiful, because I think I have not experienced any person who has not experienced a level of hurt. And I think it's Brene Brown who says, we don't do comparative suffering. Like, we just know that when people hurt, people hurt. And sometimes the deepest hurts come from the family, the people who we are with the most. And so how do you wrap your understanding? How do you wrap your outreach to the community around you when that hurt is living either under your roof or had been under your roof at some point in your life? I think that's a real an important journey for people to take, and I don't think it's one people can do alone. So whether that means there's counseling that people need to embrace and support as they navigate that. I would also say that as women, I think one of the most important part about mentorship is also friendship with other women, really having safe space with a good girlfriend. And you don't have to have 15, but one or two people, that's in your corner, that's cheering you on, is really important. Brooke, I would love to know from your perspective, sitting here doing this podcast and listening to women and to listening to all that you've learned and are experiencing in the world, what stands out to you as being kind of the reason where you see us in this space with changing, and how can we as women better engage and support you?
Yeah. See, that's tough, because I mean, there's like always like something, things change like from generation to generation, and even like between ages of like me and my siblings, there's,
Mhm.
still differences in like um what is expected and like what's normal for
Mhm.
a generation or like for people. And I don't know.
Brooke, you're pretty far away. How far between you and your older sibling are you? How many years apart?
Well,
The
gosh, the oldest, there's almost 17,
Yeah, 16
Okay,
and a half
okay,
years.
yeah.
16 and a half years. And then Mason is 7 years old. 7 years?
Yeah, almost 7.
Yeah.
M is 5, and then Ren is like a year and a half.
Yeah. So my brother is 11 years older than me. I came into the family, I was the baby. And when I came into the family, my parents were able to have a lot more financial freedom. We were doing a lot more fun things than my brother experienced. And it's been interesting as I've gotten older, how that relationship with my older sibling has really become this good friendship, to this
Mhm.
point where I didn't realize how much I enjoyed talking to him on a regular basis because we did not have the same childhood. We did not have the same experience growing up. And, he views the world very different than I do. And so I hear what you're saying, Brooke, sometimes even in your own family, like you're like, that's not how
Yeah,
I see mom and dad. That's
yeah,
not how I
Yeah.
saw that. That Christmas holiday did not look like that to me.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you actually experience that sometimes with your siblings.
yeah,
The when Brooke was away in college, we had a video chat every single day,
yeah.
and the others just chose not to go that route with me. But and I didn't force it. It was always Brooke sending me a text. Can I call? Of course. And then next thing you know, there's a video call coming through on FaceTime, and we would talk about the day and how it's gonna go. And so some of the siblings would say, "Oh, Mom are just so close." And Brooke stood up and said, "But I'm choosing this relationship route. I'm choosing to build this relationship with her. So you can do it too."
And they also had different experiences in that you guys didn't visit me in college. And
Yeah.
you have like visited all of them in college before. So like I always had to do the moving in and moving out mostly by myself. Whereas they
Yeah.
had like a different experience. And then even when I like studied abroad, again, it was a different experience than like
Yeah.
what they'd had in college.
Absolutely. It was, and I think those differences I think that it's great that a family can have those types of differences because we can learn. I mean, and then we can pass that on to other people, especially, through informational venues like this. And I think that one thing that I would really like for you to talk about, Brooke, is in these relationships, how you taught me and my generation to accept when your siblings were ready to come out.
Okay.
How did y'all teach us to accept this?
I don't know.
You don't remember?
I mean, I don't think I've ever been like that close with them in that like I didn't know much longer before you did.
Oh yeah, I know that. I know that part. But like when I was making the mistakes of fretting and worrying, what were the things that it was actually you and Mason, said some things to me. Do you remember?
No.
Yeah, both said to
You
me.
were wise and you didn't even know it, Brooke. You were
Yeah,
sharing, you were throwing out gems of
absolutely.
of
They said to
psychology and
me,
therapy that
yeah,
you didn't even know.
exactly. They were the ones that made me realize this is not about me.
Yeah.
It wasn't about my parenting. It wasn't a right or a wrong or anything. This was about my children finally being able to go into adulthood, being the true person that they are. They wanted to face the world. And, I often wonder, wow, I thought that I loved my kids so much and I was such a great mom and so open. And I taught my kids to embrace everyone for who and what they were and to accept people. And yet, believe it or not, when my children started to come out, I questioned my role in it. It wasn't my role. And that's what I want people to understand is as parents, we love our kids. That's your goal.
Yeah.
Love your kids. Love your sweet kids. Love your kids that need to learn how to be respectful to other people. Love your kids.
Yeah.
I mean, even as they grow into adulthood. And I think that was, what my own children taught me was that all I needed to do was love.
Yeah.
You know the show One Day at a Time?
Yes.
You know the
The
reboot?
older one. The reboot, yes.
So the reboot, there's an episode. So it's basically she's a single mom, and she has 2 kids. And there's an episode where her daughter comes out to her as a lesbian, and like it goes through like her process of being like, I feel bad because I'm not 100% comfortable with it yet, and like it goes through like it's like
The daughter's process.
No,
Oh,
the
the
mom's
mother's
process.
okay.
And I think it's really interesting because it shows like how she like comes to terms with like realizing she's not a bad mom for not immediately being like, because she hasn't gone through this process before.
Right.
So I think it's really interesting. Very good.
Yeah, I'm glad that they did that. I mean, what a way to educate the public is to bring things like that to light. I think it was so funny because I thought, because we'd even had this conversation. Todd and I even had a conversation. Okay, our children when they were babies. Okay, if they're going to come out as gay or lesbian, we're not going to have any problem with that. Well, we didn't know. We didn't talk about if they're going to come out as transgender. So we were like, oh gosh, well, And again, the process shouldn't be different. Because again, love your kids because they are the ones that know themselves best.
Well, and I think too, Deb, that philosophy and practice of loving your children where they are and for who they are, whatever that looks like. Equipping them to be bold, equipping them to have conversations that they're uncomfortable with or that they're teasing out in a non-judgmental, psychologically safe environment is so important. And that also bleeds into how you engage with your community as a large, right? How you're engaging with the neighborhood. Because when you can take that principle of this is a human being who has come into this world. We are all figuring this out for the first time, right? First time moms is a real thing. We're like you're figuring out how to do that differently.
Yes.
A first time human loving another human. It's a first time for that individual. And so I think it's important, as you shared, to give space, to recognize when you need space to step back to process that. And going back to our earlier conversation, how can we mitigate the words or even the facial expressions that come out that could cause unintentional pain or unintentional confusion to let people be who they need to be? Now, that doesn't mean that we don't provide counsel or recommendations or alternative ways of thinking about things, because I think part of a healthy relationship is a back and forth of pros and cons and highs and lows. But doing so from a place of loving that human being and knowing that there is not one right answer for this, whatever is presenting itself, I think is really key and critical for that. I'll share with you the name of the book that I'm currently reading, and I'll send you the author, but the book is called The Donkey Principle. It talks about leadership. But in it, one of the sections that I was reading on communication talks about if you find that your communication with somebody is not working, then you are not speaking the language that resonates with them. And so if you want to be a good communicator, it's about learning the language of the people that you're with so that you can speak and connect with them in a way that feels real and authentic to them.
I like that. It kind of goes right back to was it Gary Smalley, the 5 love languages?
Yeah.
I mean, it kind of, falls in line with that. You said it was the donkey principle?
Yep. It's got something after that. And for you, Brooke, my daughter, she and I talk often. I have the expectation for my other child, if they send a text once a week, I feel like that is success and I am excited. And so it's also like where people are with how they're communicating, right? And for me to not take that personally. I did not do something wrong because this other child of mine chooses to engage at a different frequency.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they are who they are. So but
That's
I'm
okay.
grateful for the one that does it frequently.
To all my children who might hear this episode, I am going to do better. I'm going to learn from Tracie. Because it's so funny. I think I too often expect everybody to treat me the way I think I'm treating them. I
Well,
forget that.
well, and Deb, I think that's where we operate from, right? We start
Yes.
my starting place is how do I like
Mhm,
to be treated? That's how I start
that's
my day, my world, my engagements. How do I like
right.
to be treated?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's something I really worked on because I did live I lived away from these guys for about 4 months,
Yeah.
and they were still here in Switzerland. I was in the United States working, and that was the hardest thing for me. Was I was thinking, well, if it were me, I would be texting them, telling them everything that's going on in my life. I wouldn't leave them out. Why can't they do that for me? And I think it was a phone conversation, a video call that I was having with Todd, and I realized I'm expecting way too much from these people because I'm expecting them to be me. Because, I grew up hearing that, you treat people the way you want to be treated. So if I'm treating them this way, I expect them to learn to treat me this way.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not really real love. That's not true, the word you use, and I love that you're using the word engagement. That's not an engagement that teaches them anything. So me expecting them to learn from my actions is wrong of me to expect.
Yeah, I think it also, the time difference going the other way is really complicated. So like when I was the one texting you from the being 6 hours behind, it was easier, but you didn't do the same thing for me when you were in the US. And I didn't want to,
Right.
because I didn't, the time difference was weird.
I got better about that. Towards the end, I don't know, the last 6 weeks I was there, I was getting better about getting up at 4:30 in the morning. We would have our morning conversation. So I did get better at it. But you're right, I didn't recognize it at first. I'm sorry.
That's okay, because I was also in class until like
That's
noon.
true. That's
Yeah.
true. So funny, all this stuff we're learning. I love
Well,
that we can just learn without hurt
Yeah.
feelings and things like that. I love that.
And Deb, I just want to circle back to that conversation, Brooke, that we were having earlier about grace and hurt and all of that. I also had just read this other book by Emily P. Freeman, and she mentions in this book, and I'll send you that name too. I know this, and I've worked through this, but I loved the way she worded it, because when I think about ways that I've hurt others in the past, maybe some that I know, some that I don't even know that I did. She said, at some point, you have to reach a point where you let lost things be lost. You do your best at rectifying, you do your best at saying sorry, you do your best for changing. Some people are going to receive that, some people are not. They're going to carry that for however long they need to in their journey for healing and how they live their life. And so I don't have to absorb that. I can just let lost things be lost. So, and still be kind and loving about that. So
yeah,
just want to put that out there. But
well, tell us more about your business. We want to hear about
okay, so I'm going to jump back in time. So here I was able to step out of public ed and work into a nonprofit situation. And then I, like many families, faced a time where my parents were aging and were entering into their final season of this side of eternity. And so during that time when it became evident that it was time for that, I had to shift my time. My parents were not in the same state as me. It was quite a journey. And so I found myself in this really weird space of having to care long distance with frequent travel from my parents. And that includes my side of the family as well, because there was a lot of family dynamics that were impacting my parents as well. They were the caretakers for many people. They were the safe house, the place where everybody goes. They really kind of fit that grandparent, parent community. They'd been married over 60 years. I mean, they just had that whole thing happening. And so that's a lot to kind of help and absorb and do, while simultaneously I was launching 2 children into college. and transitioning my own life with my family and my husband and our pets and all that comes with life transitions. And it just became very evident to me, really, it's been a year now that I needed to take a little bit of a respite in my career, that I needed to pause the professional journey that I was on and lean solely into the personal side of my life. And so I officially stopped working in what I would call traditional employment by the end of February of last year, so February of 2024, and moved into a place where I could go and come and support and take care of personal family needs in a way that I just felt I was being called to do. That's not everybody's calling. People have to do what feels good, what they can do. I felt that felt grateful for the privilege that I could take the time off. I know that there are a lot of women and families who can't. And so I even wrestled with that, like, oh gosh, I can. It's going to be a different way that I show up in how we look as a family and how we look financially as a family. But that's okay. I feel like I need to do this right now. And so as I was coming through doing all of that traveling, I realized at the end of the day, one of the things I really had a dream for was to start my own consulting business. And, we just have to seize life while we have it. It is short, it is fleeting. You never know what opportunities that you're going to get. And so I decided while I'm in this space of flexibility and freedom, I'm going to launch this independent consulting business and we'll see where that goes. And so that's what started that journey. And it was interesting because as I met with different consultants and learned more and was able to hear their stories, how they started, how they chose their name for their business, what their journeys were, I felt like, gosh, this is really a wonderful time and space that I've had the opportunity to lean into and give. And so I launched what's called the Bayberry Group. I wrestled over the term group because I'm a person of one, but my work philosophy is collaboration. How many people can we bring into the conversation? What kind of group can we gather together to address whatever it is that you're wanting to do in your organization or with your team to make that more collaborative, to resource and understand your network in your community, to open up conversations, open up tables of decision making, doing so with clear guidelines and outcomes, and how do we measure that, and how do we make it real, and how do we make a strategic plan that's just not on the shelf, that's living and active, that people understand, a mission that people want to be a part of. And so that's why I have the group part to my single independent consulting business. So yeah.
That's exciting. That's very exciting.
And so I was able to launch that before the end of the year, which was a huge goal. And then Deb, last night I was able to mark off my second goal, which is to provide a monthly brief on leadership. So I think I sent that to your email. Thank you for subscribing. You've been one of my first people to subscribe to the websites, the Bayberry.
Honored to do it.
Launched that last night. So that was exciting.
That's good. We do want to know, how did you choose the name?
Yeah,
we've been kind of going back and forth with that. As women, I think that this might possibly fall into being a woman.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because my parents were part of their generation, right? And as I was caring for them, and as I was listening and thinking about how I grew up with my parents, not how my brother or sister grew up, but how I grew up with my parents. My dad was so I guess I would say ahead of his time in a sense for how he felt about women leaders and women in leadership, and encouraging me to apply for that job, apply for that leadership, apply, like whatever it is that you're wanting, I want you to feel equipped and empowered to apply for and to do. And my mom was the same way. She had a different approach to it, which is probably another podcast on mothers. So
well, we will plan that. Okay.
So, because she was a great mom too. And so I realized that a lot of that confidence and a lot of that energy and a lot of that beginning to even be able to envision this dream of launching this business really started from where I grew up. And so I grew up on Bayberry Drive. And so it's the Bayberry Group.
Okay.
That was a long way to get at. Feel free to edit. take out part of that story, but I went
No,
back to
we
where I,
want to hear all
yeah,
that. That's okay.
yeah.
Well, that's really nice. I
Mhm.
mean, and I love that it's what you've done, what you're doing to build this business, comes from so far within you, from growing up on, did you say it was Bayberry Lane?
Bayberry Drive. Mhm.
Bayberry Drive. Growing up on Bayberry Drive and letting that be part of, this new launch in your life, this, especially after, after saying goodbye to your parents. I mean, that, you just kind of brought your whole family into this. And I think that that's wonderful. I think it's beautiful. I mean, that's, it's kind of probably a lot of people's dream. I mean, it would certainly be a dream of mine. So to have, to have good thoughts from the past, to be able to launch good things for the future.
Yeah.
So
I just want to say, Deb, I think you are an amazing mom, because I think part of what makes an amazing mom is a mom that's willing to say, how can I keep learning? Right.
yes.
And I
Thank
think
you.
that we as women always have dreams before us. And so it's
Mhm.
never too late to kick off that dream. It's never too late to get started. Time
Absolutely.
is a construct that we've just put in
Mhm.
place to help create some level of order. I just want to say, for women to women,
Mhm.
I am encouraging myself, and I hope to encourage others to say, just because somebody says you can't do this doesn't mean that you can. Or if they say, oh, you're starting this, aren't you like
Mhm.
at the end of your career? Aren't you starting to think more about retirement? I'm like, retire from what? Helping people,
Mhm.
encouraging people,
Right.
living this dream. And so I just want to say, I mean, I am so delighted. Having a podcast has been on my bucket list. And so I am thrilled to see you live in this space, and I hope to grow and learn from you. And
Okay.
however I can help and grow and learn with you, let me know, because this is a journey as women together. And when one
Absolutely.
succeeds, we all succeed.
And I appreciate you saying that, because we will definitely get that other podcast about mothers. We will get that on the books. We will definitely do that. And I think it was so funny because when Brooke first approached me with this, I thought, oh, this will be fun. And really just did not think of it as anything more than that. But now, I'm starting to really think, how can we do this? Because again, I don't want to say mission, but vision has always been educate the public. I had the most important people in my lives were always my teachers, and, a certain botany professor at our undergraduate was a very important teacher to me.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm.
and so, and it was so funny because he was younger than me, which just for a few months, but still, I think that that's so funny. He absolutely taught me to be honest and to just keep learning,
Yeah, yeah.
because I was a first generation college student. And that was not my first rodeo. I'd been to so many different schools just trying to get a 4-year degree. It took me 10 years to get a 4-year degree after high school. And a lot of it was just what I needed to learn. And
Yeah.
so many of my teachers and professors taught me so much more than just, the contents of the subject. And I'm so appreciative of that, So we got to talk earlier, when I met with you guys, we got to talk about my undergraduate advisor, leave that burden. And she absolutely was transformative to me, because I thought I was on the path to just be an educated woman.
Mhm.
I didn't know I was on the path to be a leader, but they put me on that path to be a leader.
Mhm.
And it just, and even though, I mean, I'm not berühmt, weltweit, so well known worldwide is basically what I was saying in German. And I'm still, I'm teaching myself, and I hopefully in the process teaching others. Because education is just, it takes on different forms, what we teach. But, any platform we can use to teach the public, I think, is going to be, exactly how the world becomes better.
Mhm.
Because we need to embrace togetherness as opposed to division.
Yeah.
And I think it's so important that we as women embrace other women,
Mhm.
encourage them, love them, and just, let, just let whatever we have as our gift, be our platform to help others, be the springboard, I guess I should say, to help others. So we want to close this up, but we have a final question for you.
Okay.
And so we like to ask our guests, are you living your best life and are you living your purpose?
Okay, so I did answer this question because you sent that to me. And so I am happy to answer this question, although what you were sharing earlier about people on purpose and mission,
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering for both you and Brooke, where do you feel like one of your top strengths are right now in your life, in your personal and professional life? What's one of your top strengths that you're like, right now, I am really good at X?
I don't know. That's really tough. I don't know. I think like helping people. I think
Okay.
I am really good at that because I mean I like to help people and yeah, I don't know.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, yeah. I think having a heart for helping others is really
Mhm.
important. There's who is it that said, look for the helpers? Is that Mr. Rogers would say, look for the helpers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, it was Mr. Rogers,
Yeah.
and I often
That's you,
said that
Brooke.
to
We're
my
looking for
children.
you, the
Yes,
helpers.
yes, absolutely. I'm so glad to hear that. That's absolutely because yeah, we have to, because a lot of times we find ourselves on the other end of that. We
Yeah.
need the helper.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What about you, Deb? What do you think is your strength right now?
I think right now my strength, again, this is a tough one because I just had a transition. So I think right now my strength is learning to be, because maybe I'm not where I want to be, but I need to learn to be. And I think I'm going to give myself the grace to learn to be. And you?
Well, Deb, I would say that what you've just said, again, you and I are very similar in how we're viewing the world right now. And I appreciate you being just so forthcoming and transparent and how you're feeling and growing, because I did put, and I'll just read what I wrote. I said, the question of fulfilling my purpose has evolved. In earlier years, it was closely tied to specific goals such as children, home location, finances, professional titles. But now with the wisdom that I've gained from experience, unexpected opportunities, and detours, that has shifted my focus towards more relational goals. And this includes making time for the individual who greets me every time I go to the trash dump. He always wants a few minutes to catch up on local news. Or even embracing a new pet like my rooster, Larry, taking space and time for Larry. And just recognizing that there's always more people coming in and out of our lives. And the real question that I ask myself is, am I ready to embrace them fully? And am I also prepared to let go when it's time to let go of certain relationships or certain things that I've been invested in? Because there's always something new around the corner, and everything has dates and times on them. And so being open to that.
Absolutely. That's wonderful. Thank you very much. We appreciate you. This has been.
Is that background noise picking up? Are you guys okay?
Okay. No, we don't think that'll be loud, but we appreciate you taking this time, especially that you had to get up so early. But and so yeah, and again, we're gonna have you on again if you don't mind, because you so many good topics, and you're such a good speaker, and you're just so kind and lovely, and so we just appreciate all that you were able to provide for the listeners. So I'm gonna say that we're gonna close it up, but
yeah, and I just want to say, next time in the morning, I've loved watching your clips. I've gone to your podcast site and checked y'all out. Y'all are And I will say the next time I come in the morning, I may not have a wine like that, but I will definitely have a mimosa. So we will.
Oh, okay. Well, we almost did mimosas. So next time we actually squeezed orange juice last night. We squeezed the oranges.
I squeezed the oranges.
Brooke squeezed the oranges.
Brooke, you were helping. You were getting the oranges ready.
You know, she really is. She really is embracing that role of helper, and so I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And I went to the store at 7 o'clock at night.
Oh, she did. It was dark, and we were expecting snow, and then the snow didn't come, and so she thought, well, I could just go to the store. So, we were joking earlier about how the stores closed early, but it was Friday. So Friday is our late night. Stores are open till 8:30.
Okay.
8 o'clock. I'm sorry, 8 o'clock. So it's so funny to have the differences that we've had to learn, about you can't just go to, a store, a Harris Teeter at the middle of the night. So, okay. So to our listeners, we really hope you enjoyed the conversation.
We'll be back next week with a new bottle of wine and a new topic. If you want to join the conversation, follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Wine Together Pod. And if you don't want to miss out on our regular weekly episodes, along with all our bonus content, you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, as well as subscribing, liking, and commenting on our YouTube Wine Together Podcast.